What if the most unpredictable species in the galaxy, the ones with no natural armor, no psychic gifts, no ancient legacy, turn out to be the key to unlocking the universe's oldest secret? They were not the strongest, nor the wisest, and certainly not the most prepared. Yet somehow, they activated a forgotten artifact that baffled civilizations for millennia, by accident. And now, the entire galaxy is watching them. Some are in awe, some are in fear, because one thing is becoming terrifyingly clear. Humans were not supposed to matter. But they do. Before we start, please, please, click that card button in the top right corner to subscribe now. And be sure to ring the notification bell so you never miss a single one of our epic daily stories the moment they drop. There's a pinned comment on this video, and aliens hide the answer in plain sight. Can you outsmart them? Crack the pinned comments question to prove humanity's brain power reigns supreme. Watch every second till the end of the story. I'll be waiting for your answer. Let's dive into the story. The Galactic Institute of Interstellar Regulation was a monument to cosmic order. Suspended above the orbit of Solaris Prime, the station shimmered like a polished coin in the void, a testament to 12 million cycles of rules, forms, approvals, and revisions. Inside, every corridor gleamed with sterile efficiency. Every footstep echoed like it had passed inspection. Here, chaos was not feared, it was banished. Director Ocean Vell stood before the panoramic viewport of her office, arms folded behind her back, her crystalline joints glinting with the reflected light of the nearby pulsar. Her mind, usually a bastion of structured thought, felt cluttered. Something unaccounted for had entered her domain. A soft chime announced the arrival of her assistant. Rigger Thal stepped in briskly, posture slightly hunched, the subtle twitch of his dorsal spines betraying unease. "They have arrived," he said, his voice raspy through the translator mesh. "Who?" Ocean asked, though the answer was already forming in her mind. Rigger hesitated. "Humans." There it was. The word dropped like a gravity bomb. Ocean turned, her expression unreadable behind her shimmering faceplate. Did they follow protocol? Not exactly, Rigger admitted, rubbing one mandible against the other. They bypassed standard customs, reprogrammed our AI greeter with something they call chaotic neutral logic, and they signed themselves up for a conference that does not exist. They what? They created a new conference in our internal system, scheduled it, gave it branding, even printed holographic souvenirs. One of our analysts bought a t-shirt. Ocean's pupils dilated into full eclipse. Are you telling me unclassified mammals have hijacked our planetary summit from a Tier 3 chaos world? I'm telling you, Rigger said carefully. They have named the event Diplomacy Jam 3000 and have already sent invitations to 9 attending species. By the stars, Ocean pinched the bridge of her upper crest. Why does every interaction with humans feel like a sneeze inside a data archive? They have a certain improvisational quality. They do not follow protocol. No, director, but they do seem to follow outcomes. The negotiation sector they infiltrated, productivity increased by 37% after they distributed snacks. Snacks? They called it a morale hack. The drones they used are now demanding a weekly treat rotation. They filed it under Worker Happiness Initiative number 1. Ocean stared out the viewport again, her thoughts a blur of classified variables. Summon the observers. We are opening a new case file. Humans Sol 3 Origin. Preliminary Tak. Disruptive Unknowns. Rigger took a step closer. There is more, Director. They have requested a private session with the Committee on Sentient Etiquette. Apparently, they wish to challenge Article 42 on the grounds that sarcasm should be a recognized diplomatic tool. Ocean said nothing. She just stared. I believe one of them called it passive-aggressive negotiation jujitsu, Rigger added. Ocean's arms dropped to her sides. We're not dealing with a species. We are dealing with a glitch in the behavioral matrix of the universe. Rigger chuckled softly. Shall I initiate Protocol 1 for species classification? No, she said. Protocol 1 assumes order. For this, we begin Protocol Null. And somewhere deep within the station, a dormant folder opened for the first time in 5 million years. It simply read, Unquantifiable. The Galactic Institute of Interstellar Regulation had never faced a situation like this. Director Ocean Vell, despite her extensive experience, felt a peculiar pressure forming in her chest as the internal notifications flashed across her console. She had hoped that, after centuries of observing the behavior of countless sentient species, she had seen it all. But no, humans had arrived. The conference hall buzzed with excitement as Ocean and Rigger entered the observation chamber. From their vantage point, they could see the human delegation mingling with representatives from nearly 30 other species. Despite the bizarre nature of their invitation, the humans exuded an energy that filled the room. It wasn't the typical calm professionalism expected at diplomatic functions. It was chaotic, infectious, and for some strange reason, it was working. Director, please observe, Rigger said, tapping his forelimb to the data display. The human ambassador, Harrison, has already made first contact with the Zyner delegation. They were supposed to be in a stalemate over the Zornian trade agreement. Ocean's eyes narrowed. She was used to Zyner diplomats, formidable, precise, and predictable. But Harrison, the human ambassador? He was laughing. No, genuinely laughing. How could that be? The Zyner had no capacity for humor. They were biologically incapable of it. Is it possible that they've somehow faked it? Ocean asked, her tone more thoughtful than usual. Rigger clicked his mandibles, disapproving of the suggestion. Impossible. The Zyner's chemical response to emotion is instantaneous. They cannot fake amusement. Ocean leaned in closer to the observation glass. Her curiosity piqued. Then how? Humans, Rigger muttered, are unpredictable. They somehow induce chemical responses that other species can't even explain. Just then, another human delegate, an older man, his gray beard shimmering slightly, strolled over to the Valshan ambassador. The Valshans communicated with complex patterns of bioluminescence, their entire language encoded in light. But instead of using the expected holographic interface or advanced tech, the human held up a small handheld device. What is that? Ocean asked, her interest shifting. It's called a smartphone, Rigger answered. And the human is wait. Ocean's sharp mind was piecing it together. They're using it to translate light? How? They are not, Rigger said, clicking his mandibles again. They're using something called an app, a frivolous recreational tool designed for entertainment. It's called Disco Party Lights. The Valshan ambassador seemed genuinely intrigued by the glowing patterns flashing from the device, even attempting to mimic them. Ocean couldn't believe her eyes. That is diplomacy through chaos, Rigger finished for her. Ocean gripped the edge of the glass, watching as the human and Valshan exchanged a trade agreement through dancing lights. A few minutes later, the Valshan delegate was nodding and offering a 10% reduction in tariffs. Are they truly negotiating? Ocean whispered, unable to suppress her astonishment. Apparently, Rigger said dryly, with nothing more than flashing lights and sheer audacity. Before she could respond, her gaze shifted to another human, a woman this time, surrounded by a group of Calaxians. The Calaxians, known for their hyper-alert senses and perfect recall, watched as she demonstrated sleight-of-hand tricks. To Ocean's disbelief, the Calaxian youths, normally incapable of being impressed by such trivial displays, seemed utterly mystified. How is this possible? Ocean said, almost pleading for an explanation. The human is exploiting the one thing the Calaxians can't perceive, Rigger explained. Their senses are so keen, they overcompensate. The human is, how do you put it, bending their expectations. "This is madness," Oshin muttered, her mind struggling to keep up. "We've never encountered anything like this. A species so disruptive, so effective by doing the unexpected." Rigger nodded, his mandibles clattering. "It is their weapon, Director. They don't follow logic. They create it." Oshin clenched her fists. "I've spent my entire career classifying species, organizing their behaviors, and understanding their patterns. And now, I'm watching a species shatter everything." They watched as another human, this time a younger man, accidentally triggered an ancient piece of technology displayed in the center of the room. The artifact had baffled every scientist in the galaxy for centuries. No one had ever discovered how to activate it. And yet, the human, just leaning against it casually, somehow triggered it. The artifact began to hum, a soft blue glow radiating from it. The entire room fell silent. All eyes were on the human, whose expression shifted from confusion to slight panic. "I didn't mean to," the human muttered, backing away slowly, hands raised in apology. Oshin's eyes widened. The artifact, which had been a harmless piece of galactic history for millennia, now pulsed with new energy. This this random human, had activated it. "What did they just do?" Rigger asked, his voice laced with awe. I have no idea," Oshin admitted. "But we have just witnessed another impossibility." The human was backed into a corner by the security chief, who had stepped in to assess the situation. "What did you do?" the chief demanded, its voice vibrating with disbelief. Nothing," the human said, a sheepish grin on his face. "Just touched it and, said it looked cool." Oshin's voice was barely a whisper. "Ow, how does this keep happening? What kind of species are we dealing with?" As the artifact hummed louder, Oshin felt a deep, sinking feeling in her core. She wasn't sure if the humans were the greatest anomaly the galaxy had ever encountered, or the greatest threat. The artifact hovered in midair, spinning slowly with an eerie, pulsing glow. It cast a soft blue light across the entire atrium, making the polished floors shimmer like liquid starlight. Every species in the room had gone completely still, as if the galaxy itself was holding its breath. Director Oshin Vel stood frozen in the observation deck above, her crystalline fingertips pressed against the glass. "This cannot be real," she whispered. "It is real," Rigger said, staring wide-eyed at the data flooding his tablet. "The artifact is responding to a human touch, and something else. Director is transmitting data, ancient star maps, coordinates." Oshin turned to him sharply. "Coordinates to what?" Rigger swallowed, his mandibles twitching. "Unknown, but the energy signature suggests progenitor origins." Oshin's structure shifted from gleaming silver to a pale, stunned white. Below, the human delegate, still backing away from the artifact, held up his hands defensively. His voice echoed across the silent chamber. "I swear I did not mean to turn it on. I just thought it looked cool, leaned on it, and boom, lights." The security chief growled, his limbs tightening around the hilt of his ceremonial staff. "You tampered with a sacred relic older than your entire civilization." No, the human insisted. "I mean, yes, I touched it, but I didn't tamper. I just admired it." Loudly, the artifact responded by emitting a warm chime, followed by a gentle descent back to its pedestal. The maps hovering above it rotated once more, then froze. Dozens of star systems lit up in sequence. Some were known, most were not. "It is activated," Rigger muttered, "and it is communicating." Oshin exhaled slowly, the sound like wind through frozen glass. "Humans should not be able to do this," she said. "They do not possess the biological keys. They lack the genetic resonance. They do not even understand the purpose of the artifact." And yet, Rigger said, it responded to them. Or perhaps it recognized them. "That is absurd." "Director," he replied softly, "the artifact has been inert for 8,000 years. Every known species has tried to activate it. Scientists, scholars, psychic engineers. Nothing worked. A human leans on it and it opens. Oshin looked back down at the atrium. The humans, somehow unfazed by the fact that they had just rewritten galactic history, were now mingling with curious delegates from half a dozen species. Someone had already offered the human a drink. "This is spiraling," Oshin muttered. "This is beyond our capacity to categorize." Rigger glanced at her, then at the buzzing data terminal. "We have a name for this," he said. "No, we do not," Oshin snapped. "There is no classification that explains a species that causes chaos by existing." Rigger raised a brow. "Perhaps it is time to make one." Oshin turned back to the scene below as laughter erupted from a group of humans and Zovari diplomats. Two species that had refused to even make eye contact for over 200 cycles. Now, they were swapping stories about childhood games. "Look at them," she whispered. "They are rewiring the room without even trying." Rigger nodded. "I believe that is the problem." The artifact pulsed once more, releasing a final surge of data into the galactic archives. Then it went silent. Whatever message it had been waiting to deliver, it had chosen humanity to deliver it. "Director," Rigger said, his voice low, the artifact's activation code included one final designation. "What did it say?" He turned the display toward her. "Protocol null. Human access confirmed." The following day, the Galactic Institute was in full panic mode. For a place built on meticulous precision, the sheer volume of unexpected variables had triggered more alarms than a meteor strike. Data streams clogged with cross-species reactions to the artifact event, committee inboxes flooded with requests for clarification, and ancient protocols were being dusted off for the first time in millennia. Director Oshin Vel paced in her office, her luminous coat dimming with each step. "We are not prepared for this," she said. Rigger, seated calmly at his console, tapped through the artifact data again. "We were never meant to be. This is unprecedented. Not even the Folari anomaly required a new protocol. And now we are seriously considering rewriting the classification codex because of a handful of Earth mammals who barely understand how their gravity works." Rigger looked up. They also invented peanut butter and orbital fusion engines in the same century. "I'm not sure what to make of that, but I respect the chaos." Oshin glared. "This is not the time for admiration. It is the time for understanding," Rigger countered. "We have 73 documented incidents in 24 hours. Every single one defies logical explanation. And yet, the outcomes are positive." He tapped the console, bringing up a reel of surveillance. A human using dance to resolve a territorial dispute between two aquatic species. Another casually deconstructing a three-dimensional economic treaty because it had bad vibes. One had even convinced a delegation of sulfur breathers to consider joint colonization by comparing it to roommates sharing a kitchen. Oshin sighed. "They're not following diplomatic rules." "No, director. They're making new ones. By instinct." Her jaw tightened. "The artifact. What is the latest reading?" Rigger turned the screen to her. "Still transmitting. The map has expanded. 14 more coordinates. And one glyph keeps flashing." He magnified the image. Oshin's eyes locked onto the symbol pulsing in the corner. It was simple, geometric, human-like, but it was older than anything known to the archives. "That is pre-seed language," she whispered, "from before the spread of sentient life. And the humans activated it," Rigger said, "without knowing it. They are not supposed to be important," Oshin muttered. "They are not supposed to matter. They were not even classified until one cycle ago." Rigger closed the console gently. "And yet, they're the center of everything." Just then, the intercom buzzed. A flat voice came through. "Director Vel, the Conclave Committee requests your immediate presence in the Hall of Verdicts. A new motion has been introduced." Oshin tensed. "What motion?" The voice hesitated, then said, motioned to consider Homo sapiens for special classification as a galactic destabilizing force with favorable diplomatic implications. Rigger blinked. Wait, they are voting to call humans a threat and a diplomatic asset at the same time. Ocean stared at the intercom, stunned. That is not a classification, she whispered. That is a contradiction. Rigger stood, adjusting his sash. Then I believe the humans are already winning. And with that, they made their way to the hall, toward the moment the galaxy would try to label the unlabelable. The Hall of Verdicts was the most solemn chamber in the Galactic Institute. Its curved obsidian walls shimmered with soft pulses of ancestral energy, and every seat in its amphitheater structure bore the insignia of a founding species. It was here that wars were ended with a single sentence, that civilizations rose or fell on a vote. And today, it was filled with something far more unpredictable than war: humans. Director Ocean Vell entered with Rigger beside her, both stepping into the center chamber beneath the watchful gaze of over 100 delegations. At the center podium, Grand Arbiter Trilax hovered, his gaseous form coalescing into something vaguely humanoid for formality's sake. "You are late," the Arbiter stated, voice echoing like wind through cracked stone. "We were reviewing updated incident reports," Ocean replied curtly. "More," the Arbiter sighed. "3 just this morning," Rigger said, glancing at his datapad. One involved a human teaching a telepathic crustacean how to play chess using metaphorical concepts. They somehow achieved a draw. A murmur rippled through the room. The Arbiter sighed again. "Very well. The motion stands to determine whether humans of Soul 3 are to be classified under a new designation. Present the proposed classification," Ocean said. The lights dimmed, and a holographic display ignited above the chamber floor. Words scrolled across the projection in dozens of languages. Species designation proposal. Paradox class entity. Description: sentient species possessing minimal direct offensive capability, extreme adaptive behavior, high diplomatic disruption potential, and unpredictable influence on technological, cultural, and metaphysical systems. There was a beat of stunned silence. "They're calling them a paradox," Rigger whispered. "It is not inaccurate," Ocean muttered. "Objections?" the Arbiter asked. The Salvan representative, a glistening entity made of living mist, floated forward. "My species has traded with the humans. Their products include edible substances that bypass our digestive protocol, and yet we crave them. We support the classification." Next came the Varkash, whose voices always came in harmonic trios. They sent us a recording of something called jazz. We still do not understand it, but we cannot stop playing it. Support. Delegate after delegate stood, not in protest, but in bewildered support. Even the most conservative factions admitted one thing: the humans were unclassifiable by any standard measure, yet undeniably effective. Ocean remained silent as she watched this unfold. "They are rewriting the room," Rigger murmured again, just like before. Finally, the Arbiter turned toward the center. "Do the humans wish to respond to this designation before we vote?" Ambassador Harrison stood from his seat, straightening his simple gray suit. "We thank the Council," he said, his voice smooth and clear. "We acknowledge that we are strange. We admit we do not always follow rules, mostly because we forget to read them." Polite laughter spread through the room. "But we believe that connection matters more than perfection, curiosity more than conformity. And if being labeled a paradox gives us room to grow among you, then we accept it." Proudly, Ocean watched the reactions. She had never seen the Council this emotionally aligned. Then she saw it. Up in the rafters, the artifact was glowing again, but it was not glowing at random. It was blinking. A pattern. A signal. She leaned forward. "Rigger," she whispered, eyes wide. "The artifact is responding to the vote." The artifact blinked again. Once. Twice. Then 4 rapid pulses followed by a slow, steady glow. It was not just reacting, it was communicating. The pattern repeated with mechanical precision, as if counting down to something. Director Ocean Vel was already moving before she realized it. Her feet clicked rapidly against the polished stone floor of the Hall of Verdicts as she crossed the chamber to the high console beneath the artifact. Magnify the pulse signature, she ordered. Overlay ancient glyph translation matrix. Cross-reference with pre-seed syntax. Rigger scrambled behind her, pulling up the necessary algorithms. His eyes darted as numbers and symbols flashed across the screen. Then he froze. Director, you need to see this. Oshin turned. The translation appeared in cold, blue letters. Paradox confirmed. Pathway access granted. Coordinates released. The hall fell into stunned silence. Ambassador Harrison, still standing at the delegation podium, raised an eyebrow. Pathway? That sounds ominous. Or exciting. Possibly both. The Arbiter leaned forward. Director Vel, explain. Oshin's voice was low, almost reverent. The artifact has been a dormant map, possibly a lock. It was waiting for input, for millennia. And now, it has recognized humanity. It calls them the Paradox. Rigger added, it is unlocking something. The star maps are updating in real time. Dozens of new systems just came online. Unknown sectors. Hidden gates. Hidden gates, the Arbiter repeated. Yes, Rigger said. Progenitor era constructs. Dimensional junctions. The kind of structures we thought were extinct. A murmur rolled through the chamber like thunder. Oshin turned to Harrison. What did your people do? What did you unlock? Harrison gave an apologetic shrug. Honestly, we have no idea, but we did try whistling near it yesterday. That might have done something. Oshin rubbed her temples. You whistled at an ancient star map, and now we have dimensional gates opening. We whistle at a lot of things, Harrison said. You will be surprised how often it works. The Arbiter's glow intensified. Is this a threat? No, Oshin said slowly. It is an invitation. Rigger blinked. To what? She pointed to the screen. The artifact's glow synchronized with the star map's expansion. A singular location, marked in red, pulsed like a heartbeat. Whatever lies at that point. The artifact believes the humans are the ones meant to reach it. Why them? Someone from the spectator seats called. They are the Paradox, Rigger answered. They do not fit our equations. They are chaos wrapped in diplomacy. Clumsiness that breeds revelation. The gate opens for them, because only they could open it. A second later, the artifact flared with brilliant white light, casting a wave of energy that washed over every being in the hall. There was no harm, only clarity. The star map projected directly into every mind, embedding the path. Ambassador Harrison blinked, touched his temple, and muttered, Well, that was new. Oshin stepped away from the console, her voice steady. The artifact has chosen. Rigger nodded solemnly. And now, we either follow the Paradox into the unknown, or we stay behind, Oshin finished, and watch history pass us by. The delegation hall was quiet, but it was not the silence of confusion anymore. It was anticipation, wonder, and just a touch of fear. The artifact, now fully awakened, had dimmed back to a calm, rhythmic pulse, no longer warning but beckoning. Above it, the map hovered like a living thing, constellations moving ever so slightly, adjusting in real time. At the heart of the display was the pulsating red mark, a location that no galactic registry had on record, a destination older than known history. Director Oshin Vel stood at the center, her voice carefully composed. We have two choices. We either dismiss this anomaly as a coincidence, or we accept that history has chosen a new path, one we do not fully control. Rigger stepped forward beside her. This is not about classification anymore. It never was. The artifact did not respond to strength. It did not respond to knowledge. It responded to the contradiction, to paradox, to humanity. Ambassador Harrison, arms crossed, gave a soft whistle. That might be the first time anyone said that like it is a good thing. Ocean looked at him, studying him more deeply now. There was no weapon on him. No armor. No augmentation. Just calm confidence and the undeniable presence of someone who had caused seismic change without realizing it. You truly do not understand why the artifact responded to you, she asked. No clue, Harrison said with a grin. We just show up, do our best, break a few rules by accident, and somehow things turn out okish. You improvise your way into galactic history. He nodded. That sounds about right. The Arbiter floated forward, still processing the waves of energy left by the activation. There is precedent, he said, his tone heavy with reluctant acceptance. Progenitor legends speak of the unknown key, a species yet unborn when the maps were made, one that would open what all others could not. Rigger slowly turned toward him. You believe that is what humans are? I believe the artifact does, the Arbiter replied. And that is enough. From the side chamber, the young analyst hurried in, nearly tripping over his boots. Director, the gate at the red mark, it is real. We just received scans from a deep sensor buoy. A structure exists there. Massive, dormant, and beginning to power up. Powering up? Ocean echoed. Reacting to the map broadcast, the analyst said, it is synchronizing with the artifact here. Ocean turned back to Harrison. You open one door, but this is not over. Whatever lies beyond that gate, it is waiting. Harrison glanced at his fellow humans, who were now fielding excited questions from delegates all over the chamber. Then I guess we had better go knock. Not alone, Rigger said firmly. You will not walk into this alone. Not anymore. Ocean nodded. The Institute will sponsor a multi-species expedition. Humanity will lead it, and we will follow. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then, slowly, the council chamber broke into applause. The kind not built on protocol, but on possibility. The humans, for all their mess and madness, had united the stars with something no calculation could predict. Hope. And somewhere deep in the oldest layers of the archive, an ancient entry rewrote itself with a single glowing word. Paradox. Accepted. Here is the story's end. If you enjoyed and want to watch more thrilling sci-fi adventures, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Dive into epic battles, explore distant galaxies, and join brave heroes as they fight for survival against impossible odds. Let us know in comments if you want the next chapters to be published soon. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and become part of the journey. Together, we'll keep the last light burning. Subscribe now and let the adventure continue.